Hey guys, I just wanted to make a casual video for people who are just starting out on coding, who just wants to learn coding and are at a very basic level. So if you are someone who has just followed a tutorial and know very basic stuffs like functions and how to write a linear program, or you have done some small projects, must be wondering how does someone who code at a professional level is different from you. Now, there are a lot of things where they will differ from you, but there are a few things. So, I'll give you a list of things where if you work, you will look like a bit more professional. First of all, you have to learn the coding conventions. The coding conventions like Pepate and other coding conventions will help you write a particular code in a particular clean way. This is what makes you as a developer very useful in projects where other developers are involved or will be involved in future. So if you write a clean code, and by clean, what do you mean by clean? Let's say if you have tried to read and understand a code, but you do not understand anything because the variables are defined by the coder in his own way, and the logic is arranged in his own way, and you do not understand anything until you try a lot. So that's not a clean code. So a clean code is something which is simple and which implements the logic you want, but which is very easy to read and which anyone else can read and understand very quickly, so that they can modify the code, they can maintain the code, they can modify the code based on new requirements very fast. So when it comes to software development, a lot of engineers work towards the same project, work on the same code base, and they follow coding conventions so that it is more readable, it is more maintainable, and they follow practices which make the life of the other programmers easy. And that is one of the traits that is a must. Even if you write a code that executes logic efficiently, but it is not clean, it's not useful because no one else is going to be able to review it quickly, no one else will be able to understand it quickly. And if others have trouble, or if others waste their time understanding your code, so that's lost man hours, right? So that is number one. Number two, they read more code than they write. uh, Professional developers usually read a lot of code. So some say it's even 10 is to 1, where you will spend reading other people's code than writing it yourself. So when you write code, if you start writing code now, then you will write it at your level, at the level you are. You will write it at that level of cleanliness or efficiency or at that skill level. But when you read and understand other people's code, there are things which you will learn on how other people write code. So if someone writes very good code, you will learn from there, and you will be able to implement. And also, while if there is a habit of reading code, so you can read a lot of code and then understand what needs to be modified, to fix something or to add something, and you just add that part. Number three, here you will find a lot of application of what you have learned in the object oriented programming. The definitions of inheritance and abstraction, those are not just for definition's sake or just for exam, or you may feel like, where do I use this? Class inheritance and all those stuff. So you can just write functions at best and you can implement. But when you work on a bigger project, you will feel that you are dealing with not just one file that you are writing, but many other files which will have classes, which will have, it will have a structure, and all those, each functionality will be divided among different classes, and they will be inherited by other classes. And A lot of it will be to reduce reduce repetition. So there is a principle called DRY, which indicates that don't repeat yourself. So once you take a code and you have written a piece of software, or you have written functions, or you have written classes, or you have written your code and it's working, you can look at it from the dry principle and say, what lines can I eliminate, or what lines am I repeating? So maybe, for example, if at a basic level, if you are printing something repeatedly, or if you are using a piece of code repeatedly, you can wrap it around in a function. Or if you are using a set of codes, you can wrap it around in a class and create objects and use them. So this is one. So another bonus tip I'll give you is, when you pass arguments, when you use functions, you pass arguments, right? Or when you use class, in class you will have functions which will have arguments, so you will pass arguments. You can create a template using a class and you can pass objects. So in that way you don't have to pass 5-6 different arguments. Let's say you are passing someone's profile, so you are passing a particular name, age, gender and other stuff as arguments in a function. You can just write a class and create an object, and you can just pass that object. You can just update the information in the attributes of the object, in the variables of the object, and you can just pass the object. So these are a few things which you can do if you are at a completely beginner's level. Let's say you are writing a code for a calculator, or if you are doing a linear program where your code is, let's say, 20-30 lines, and you are achieving what you're set out to achieve. Then for bigger projects you can divide into different files, use classes, always use coding conventions. And one significant habit which, if you form it, that will be very helpful to you, which is never write code more than 80 lines long. So let's say you have someone's code, and then you have to scroll down to read the entire code, but then you have to scroll left and right to entire lines. If there are long lines, that makes the reading the code very difficult. So there is a convention where you can limit your lines to 80 lines. And if you have a long line, let's say you have a condition, if this or this or this or this, and it goes on for a while, and you need to have a scroll bar coming, then actually the scroll bar, the programmers hate the scroll bar, especially the horizontal scroll bar. So you can make it in the next line. You can easily find out how to make one line into 2 or 3 different lines, especially in Python and C++ as well. You can easily Google it or write in the comments below. I'll reply. So these are some pro tips which will help you code like a pro. For some more tips, I'll keep sharing. But the one thing you can study is the Pepate coding convention. So this, if you study here, you will get a lot of instructions, a lot of conventions, where you will be told like how to provide even your spaces or your commas, everything. So these conventions, if you study, you will learn a lot, and your code will look very professional, and anyone who looks at your code will take you very seriously. Thank you. See you until next time.